Finding an offline survival game on the Play Store isn't that difficult. There are usually a few popular ones that everyone knows about, but this channel is here to show you some different ones that are just as good. So leave a like and let's check out the best offline survival games available on the Play Store. This is a game that very few people actually know about, and honestly it doesn't even fit perfectly into the survival genre. Let's talk about TERAVIT. I want you to imagine something like Roblox. There are millions of games inside Roblox, but none of them are actually Roblox itself. This game works in a similar way. It comes with a sandbox mode where anyone can create their own game modes, for example, but its main game mode is a survival experience, and that's what makes it really interesting. This is one of those cases where it mixes survival with RPG elements. You'll see a few games like this on this list. At the same time that you need to level up your character and choose a class, you also have to build a house and make sure your character doesn't starve. And of course, if you ever get tired of the main mode, there are thousands of community created games to try out. And this is one of those survival games that you can play both offline and online. Let's talk about the OUTLANDS 2. The game is mainly designed to be played online with other people, but you can also play it in solo mode. After creating your character, you're dropped into this world where you have to survive against hordes of zombies while also taking care of your character's basic needs. It features a large open world with plenty of places to explore, and you need to manage your hunger, thirst, and even radiation levels. You can go anywhere you want since the game doesn't have quests guiding your progress. It also has different servers that you can join to play cooperatively with other players. If you like survival games with a more realistic feel, you're probably going to enjoy this one. Let's talk about Unbroken Survival. This is another game that doesn't explain much about its world, but as you can see, it's filled with zombies. You control your character in an open world and you're free to decide where you want to go. You can also choose which missions you want to take. Unlike some of the other games on this list, this one doesn't focus heavily on crafting. Instead, it gives you plenty of different weapons to fight zombies along with several missions built around that. I really like this game's graphics, and I also like your companion dog that follows you around. Aside from that, I'd say it's a pretty standard survival game. If you enjoy survival games where you're dropped into a world and simply have to stay alive, you're probably going to like this one. Let's talk about Unlucky Tale. This game actually has a pretty interesting story. You play as an office worker who spends almost all of their time working, but one day they suddenly wake up in a completely unknown place and have to survive. The game doesn't explain much, and it doesn't have one of those long, boring tutorials. You can say it respects players who already know the basics of survival games. It features a great open world to explore, plenty of crafting, and monsters to fight. It's a very complete survival game that's still pretty unknown. I know this is the favorite type of survival game for a lot of people, the kind that doesn't give you any guidance. Let's talk about Z-World. After creating your character, you're immediately dropped into a world full of zombies and you have to survive however you can. The game doesn't give you a main objective, but it does give you a huge map filled with places to explore. As you play, you'll find weapons, equipment to upgrade your character, and of course increasingly stronger zombies. Unlike many of the other games on this list, there isn't a final goal or a way to beat the game. It's all about surviving and exploring. If you enjoy games with RPG and survival elements, let's talk about a very underrated game called Portal Knights. I want you to imagine Minecraft, but with characters that have different classes, special abilities, and of course plenty of dungeons for you to explore and level up your characters. That's basically what Portal Knights is, and as you can see, its graphics are very similar to Minecraft. One interesting thing is that the game hasn't been updated properly on the Play Store anymore, so you can only find it elsewhere now. Another cool thing is that even though it's an offline game, you can still play cooperatively with up to 4 players, but of course you can also complete the entire game by yourself if you want. One of the best survival games ever made is also available through a PC port on mobile. Let's talk about Project Zomboid. Yes, there are a few ways to play this game on mobile. The biggest downside is that it's very demanding, so it only runs well on more powerful phones, but it definitely works. Because of its graphics and the way the game works, it was only a matter of time before someone made an unofficial port. And if you've never seen it before, this is one of the most complex survival games out there. You have to keep your character alive, and if you die even once, that character is gone for good. You can't afford to get infected by a zombie, and even something as simple as a cut can end your run if you don't treat it properly. It's a very hardcore survival game, and it's been a huge success on PC. Now, this game was originally made to be played offline, but recently it received a pretty good update. Let's talk about Stranded on a Raft. RAFT is a game you probably already know. It became very popular on Android and other platforms as well, where you have to survive on a raft in the middle of the ocean. This game works in a similar way, but with pixel-style characters, and honestly, it's much more difficult. The main idea remains the same. Different items will float through the ocean, and you'll collect them to build a bigger raft. Unlike many other survival games, staying alive here is not easy. It can be hard to survive even 10 minutes because you'll have all kinds of monsters attacking you, frogs spitting at you, and a lot of chaos happening at the same time. Recently, an update added an online version of the game, but you can still play it offline. A while ago, Subnautica was officially released on mobile. I don't know if you remember it, but now let's talk about it.
Oxygen.
What many people don't remember is that Subnautica Below Zero was also released. The truth is, you can play both games on Android completely offline, although they are premium titles. From what it seems, neither of them is too demanding to run. And if you've never played them before, you control a character who crashes on a planet that's almost entirely covered by water, and your goal is to survive while repairing your spacecraft so you can eventually return to Earth. The game was an incredible success on PC, and it still is today. It's also one of the best survival games available on the Play Store. This is a game that is almost forgotten on the Play Store, but it's still worth looking for. Let's talk about Surviving Titan. The main objective of this game is to survive on the planet Titan, a place that is completely different from Earth, where you are one of the last survivors trying to stay alive. However, when you arrive on this planet, you notice that it actually looks very similar to Earth, but with some things being different. It has a very classic survival style where you need to take care of your character's hunger, thirst, and other needs while exploring a huge unknown planet. This is one of those very simple games, but honestly, it's extremely addictive. Let's talk about Forest Camp. The only character customization options in this game are choosing between male and female, and that's it. After that, you start as a character in a completely unknown location, and you need to survive. Unlike some games on this list, this one is much more difficult. Defeating an enemy is almost impossible at the beginning. Dying from hunger or thirst is also one of the easiest ways to lose your character early on. However, the game has a very interesting learning curve and a huge map for you to explore, with many different things to discover. Unfortunately, this game was removed from the Play Store. Actually, I'm not even sure if it was ever officially available there. Let's talk about Green Project. This is a game that became popular outside of the Play Store, and many people don't even know that you can also play it on Android. In this game, you play as a character who is in Earth's orbit, and when he returns to the planet, he finds it completely destroyed. Besides the survival aspect, the main goal is to restore Earth because a fungus has taken over and ruined the planet. So both things happen at the same time. You explore the map, upgrade your character, fight against the fungus, and plant as many trees as you can. The game was very successful on PC, and unfortunately it never officially released on Android, but there is this version that you can still play today. That RPG that also mixes a lot of survival elements, and let's talk about a game called MEGIS Adventure. I really like the graphics of this game. Honestly, I think it looks very beautiful, and it reminds me a lot of farming games, at least when it comes to its story. The idea of the game is that you live peacefully with your character in an NPC village and slowly develop your character over time. You receive a piece of land, and your goal is to build your own house with a lot of crafting. It takes time, but the game also offers several other systems such as dungeons where you can fight enemies. It also has a progression system very similar to a normal RPG, making it one of those games that mixes both genres together, and it does it really well. A game about myself, it's actually pretty simple, and for some reason it doesn't even appear on the Play Store anymore. I don't know why. Let's talk about On My Own. If this game has a story, it simply didn't show up for me. You just start with a character, and after creating them, you find yourself with a house in the middle of nowhere. Unlike other survival games, this one doesn't have anything exaggerated. It's much more realistic. For example, the only food you can find is things like fruits from trees, and even building a bed inside your house is surprisingly difficult. Also, since your house is your starting point, you need to return there every night. This makes the game much more challenging than usual, because even though you're free to explore the world, you still have to make it back home every night. Oh, this is a very open game where survival is just one of its many elements. Let's talk about a game called Pocket World. I really like the graphics of this game. I think it looks really beautiful, and you start by creating your character and living alongside several other NPCs. The main idea is to survive by building your own house and creating a life together with the inhabitants of this world. The game includes everything from building and customizing your house, crafting and leveling up your character to interacting with the famous NPCs. Besides that, the game has several islands for you to explore, and something surprising that I found in this game is that you can actually find a girlfriend. Not only that, but you can even marry her, and when your character eventually dies of old age, you can continue playing with another character. This is that type of survival game where your main goal is to take down a lot of zombies. Let's talk about Dead Wastelands. In this game, you're part of a survivor camp and you need to gather supplies and other useful resources. You can manage your weapons, check your character's stats, and of course go into different battles to fight against hordes of zombies. It has a more survival focused style, but it's the kind of survival where your main objective is to defeat as many zombies as possible. Building your base is also an interesting part of the game, including developing your character and even the NPCs that can join you. Unfortunately, the game doesn't have crafting or an open world for you to explore. To fully understand the story of Doom and Destiny worlds, you'd need to play the previous RPGs in the series, but I'll give you a quick explanation. There are 4 games in this series. The first 3 are turn-based RPGs, while the latest one is basically a survival game. The story follows 4 friends who end up in the fantasy world from their favorite video game. Unlike the RPG titles, this time they're in a world where they have to survive in a way that's very similar to Minecraft. In this game, you're stranded on an island and need to gather food, collect water, and build a canoe so you can explore the rest of the world. I honestly like the idea of changing genres, and I think it was done really well. A lot of people simply forget that this game is available on the Play Store, and I can understand why, because it's a very expensive game. Let's talk about Dragon Quest Builders. This game was released at the time when Minecraft was becoming extremely popular and many games wanted to create their own version of it. This one is basically the Dragon Quest version. In the story, humanity lost a great war and you are the last surviving human. Your goal is to rebuild civilization, repopulate the world, and create everything from scratch. Even though the game has this story, you actually have a lot of freedom to explore the map and go wherever you want. It still has RPG systems, but this time the main focus is much more on crafting and survival. If you ask a survival game fan, they might say that this is one of the best offline survival games on the Play Store, and I might agree with them. Let's talk about DYSMANTLE. This game has a lot of unique features that really bring something new to the survival genre. Its idea is also completely different because you control a character who needs to survive, but he's constantly moving forward. For example, you won't be building a house in this game. Instead, the game gives you a huge open world filled with zombies scattered across the map. One of the most unique things about it is that you can destroy almost everything, from cars to even taking down entire buildings. Another interesting feature is the campfire system. All the monsters eventually return to the same locations, which makes the game much more challenging, but honestly, the harder a survival game is, the better the experience can become. A lot of people don't even remember that this game was also released on the Play Store. Well, let's talk about a game called FORAGER. I don't remember if this game is exactly a survival game, but it definitely has a lot of crafting. The idea is that you start with this small character and try to develop your island as much as possible. At the beginning, your world is very small and you basically only have 1 square of land. You need to collect wood, gather stone, and use these basic resources to create new things. The game has a huge learning curve where you can create an incredible amount of different things through crafting. And of course, the small area where you started as just 1 square eventually becomes a massive open world for you to explore. Another game on our list that you can play alone or with other people. Let's talk about After That Day. In this game, you start with your character completely lost in an unknown location, and now you have to survive while dealing with several zombies. Right at the beginning, you can choose whether you want to play alone or even with up to 3 other players. Of course, the main focus of the game remains the same: exploring an unknown area, fighting zombies, and taking care of your character's survival. This is a game that doesn't have many different mechanics, but it's simply a well-made survival game that is worth trying. A game that a lot of people don't know about, a survival game that takes place in Brazil. Let's talk about ARIDA BACKLANDS Awakening. In this game, you play as a character named Cicera. You have to survive in a very hot and dry backland region while also helping your family survive. Unlike other games where everything happens in a more intuitive way, like simply collecting wood or finding water, in this game getting these resources can be much more difficult. The game is very limited when it comes to resources, and that's one of its biggest characteristics. Besides that, unlike many other survival games, this one focuses much more on the story, with many NPCs who are part of your family and who you help throughout the journey. This is another game that many people overlook, but it's definitely worth trying. Of course, that this game had to be here. It's probably one of the most famous survival games on the Play Store. Let's talk about ARK Ultimate. I would say that when it comes to offline survival games, this is probably one of the most demanding games in terms of graphics and also for running on lower end phones. One of the biggest parts of this game is surviving alongside dinosaurs. At the beginning you can fight them and defeat them, or you can also tame them if you want. This version, ARK Ultimate, includes basically all the other DLCs, making it the most complete version of the game. Honestly, I was never a huge fan of ARK because I always found it a little strange, but there's no denying that it's one of the best survival games out there. Another game on our list that you can play both offline and online, let's talk about ASHCRAFT Voxel. This game is pretty funny because if you play it in first person, you might think it's Minecraft since everything is very blocky and looks extremely similar. However, a lot of people end up playing it in third person, which makes the game feel completely different. And just like Minecraft, the game drops you into an open world, but this time with a more futuristic style and even more things to do. You start after a spaceship accident and the main goal is to repair it while also trying to survive at the same time. You can play it in offline modes, join other people's servers, or even create your own server to play with your friends. This might be one of the most underrated survival games out there. Let's talk about a game called CRASHLANDS 2. The truth is that a lot of people don't even know this game is a survival game, mostly because of its style and even its name. In the game, you play as a doctor who was in space doing some kind of work, but he crashes on a completely unknown planet and now needs to find a way to survive. Unlike other games where you survive on Earth and already know exactly what water is or what wood is, for example, here you're on a completely unknown planet. You don't even know which creatures are dangerous or which ones might attack you. This gives the game a very different dynamic, and of course you also have the option to rebuild your base and eventually find a way back to Earth. And that's the list. These were some of the best offline survival games you can find on the Play Store. Leave it in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more mobile game videos.